Welcome to Outside Views, where we take an in-depth look at the obstacles the UK would face if it were to apply for EU membership again. Brexit is increasingly regarded as a mistake, and many Britons now favour rejoining the EU. But what would that actually mean? And today we continue our BRITURN series, where we explore the challenges of the accession process, and in this episode we examine Chapter 32, Financial Control. When discussing the prospect of the UK rejoining the European Union, we must understand that there is no shortcut or special treatment for a former member. The UK would have to apply like any other country, and that means fulfilling the so-called Copenhagen criteria. These criteria demand stable democratic institutions, a functioning market economy, and the ability to adopt the entire body of EU law known as the acquis. Every applicant follows the same process, meaning this is not a negotiation in the way many would assume just because of the name. The EU does not bargain over its rules. The applicant country must align with them. Chapter 32 focuses on financial control, an essential aspect of EU membership, and this chapter ensures that all public funds, including both national budgets and EU financial support, are managed transparently, efficiently, and in compliance with internationally recognized standards. This is not merely about accounting practices, but about having strong mechanisms for financial oversight, fraud prevention, and audit independence. For the UK, this could be a challenging area, as its post-Brexit financial governance has diverged from EU norms in several ways. One of the key requirements under this chapter is the establishment of public internal financial control, or PIFC, across the entire public sector. And PIFC ensures that every level of government has an accountable and transparent financial management system based on decentralized managerial accountability. In simple terms, every public institution in the UK would need to align its financial management structures with EU best practices. While the UK has historically had strong financial governance, Brexit has led to shifts in regulatory oversight, particularly in areas where government spending has been restructured without EU oversight. To complete this chapter, the UK would have to demonstrate that its financial controls meet EU standards in a way that guarantees accountability and efficiency. A significant part of this requirement is the existence of an independent and effective internal audit system. And this means that public institutions must have independent auditors who ensure that financial resources are used correctly and efficiently. Internal audit mechanisms must function autonomously and cannot be subject to political influence or government interference. While the UK does have a well-established auditing framework, concerns have been raised in recent years about the independence of certain financial watchdogs, particularly in relation to political spending and post-Brexit budget allocations. To meet EU standards, the UK would need to ensure that all levels of public sector finance are fully transparent and subject to rigorous independent audits. Another key requirement under Chapter 32 is the establishment of an independent external audit institution that complies with the standards set by the International Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions, or INTOSAI. This institution must be operationally and financially independent and must report directly to Parliament on the use of public funds. In the UK, this role is fulfilled by the National Audit Office, but post-Brexit changes to government spending structures, particularly with regards to economic recovery measures and international trade policies, have raised questions about the effectiveness of oversight mechanisms. The EU would scrutinize whether the UK's external audit processes meet its expectations, particularly in ensuring that government spending is fully accountable. One of the more politically sensitive areas under this chapter is the protection of EU financial interests. Joining the EU again means gaining access to EU funds, including regional development grants, agricultural subsidies, and infrastructure investments. With this access come strict conditions on how these funds are managed and audited. Fraud prevention is a major concern for the EU, and the UK would need to demonstrate that it has mechanisms in place to detect, investigate, and prevent financial fraud in the management of EU funds. This includes cooperation with the European Anti-Fraud Office, or OLAF, which investigates financial mismanagement within the EU. Since Brexit, the UK has operated outside of OLAF's jurisdiction, meaning that reintegration into EU financial controls would require rebuilding cooperation in this area. Another critical aspect of this chapter is the protection of the euro against counterfeiting. Although the UK has never been a part of the Eurozone, EU financial control policies extend to ensuring that anti-counterfeiting measures are in place to protect the currency, and in the future they cannot stay out, by the way. And while this might seem like a minor issue, compliance with EU anti-counterfeiting regulations would still be a requirement. And this could mean new legal adjustments and enforcement mechanisms to meet EU standards. Post-Brexit, the UK has reshaped its financial regulations in ways that do not always align with EU norms. For example, financial deregulation efforts aimed at boosting London's global financial competitiveness may not fit within the EU's regulatory framework, very probably. And this means that to join again, the UK would have to reverse certain financial policies, ensuring that all financial control mechanisms adhere to EU law. And this could be a politically controversial process, as some of these post-Brexit changes were seen as attempts to give the UK a competitive edge in global finance. Completing this chapter would also mean re-establishing direct cooperation with EU financial institutions. The UK would need to work with the European Court of Auditors, the European Public Prosecutor's Office, and other oversight bodies responsible for ensuring compliance with EU financial regulations. And these institutions play a key role in protecting the EU budget and preventing financial corruption. For the UK, this means aligning with EU investigations and enforcement mechanisms, which could require legal adjustments to restore previous levels of cooperation. One of the broader implications of Chapter 32 is its impact on public sector efficiency. Strong financial control is not just about ensuring compliance with regulations, but about maintaining public trust in government spending. For the UK, Brexit has allowed for a more flexible approach to financial management, but it has also raised concerns about reduced oversight in areas such as pandemic recovery and their funds, but also infrastructure investments and trade subsidies. Joining the EU again would require a full-scale reassessment of financial governance, ensuring that every aspect of public sector finance meets EU transparency and accountability standards. Ultimately, Chapter 32 is about ensuring that public funds, whether national or EU-related, are managed responsibly and transparently. For the UK, meeting these requirements would not necessarily be the most difficult aspect of EU accession, but it would require a willingness to strengthen financial oversight mechanisms and align with EU best practices. And this is not simply a bureaucratic requirement, but a fundamental aspect of good governance, ensuring that taxpayer money is spent effectively and that corruption is minimized. That's it for today's episode of BRITURN, and if you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. How do you see the UK handling this chapter of the accession process if they ever reapply? I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching, and another video is right here in the end screen.